Here I am. I've got a slightly different setup, which is why I've probably had to splice about 5 minutes off the beginning of this. Instead of using my movie camera, I'm using my webcam, and I'm going to be trying doing it. We'll see if it works. Anyway, this is a sketch that I did a couple of days ago when I was trying to work out the composition for a seascape, and I put a big wave there, cloud coming across, rocks on that side, a bit of a beach, a horizon going across the middle of the splashy bit, and some rocks over here. When I looked at it, I thought that could be trees just as easily, and the composition would work just as well as a landscape. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do two versions of this sketch. One as a landscape, with that being trees and mountains and rocky bits of moorland or whatever, and another one as a seascape. First of all, I'm going to do the seascape. I already did one in watercolour, and now I'm going to do an oil version, but very quick, impressionistic one. So I've already sketched in roughly the pencil outline, which I shall probably ignore. But before I do anything else, I'll set out some paints, and I should be able to do this. There's my palette, and I'm going to put out titanium white. I'm going to put out Naples yellow. I'm going to put the lid on the Naples yellow first. I'm going to put out some cobalt blue. I find cobalt works very well for seascapes. And I'm also going to put some sap green for working into the sea. In addition to that, I'll put in some yellow ochre and some light red. Light red's not a million miles from the underpainting I've got on there. And that will do, once I've got the light red on, that will do for my palette. I may, I'll have to, because I haven't got a really dark in there. I'm going to put in some burnt umber as well. I'll put that over here because it'll make greys and darks. Okay, so that's the palette I'll be using. Very limited. Burnt umber, titanium white, Naples yellow, ultramarine blue, sap green, yellow ochre, light red. Okay, the paints I'm using are all students' quality. They're either Winton or Georgian. There's not a lot of difference between them. They're both superb paints, and just as good as professional used to be a few years ago. I've got a little bottle in there in which I have a mixture of alkyd flow medium and poppy oil. I like poppy oil as a medium because it dries clear and it doesn't yellow things. and the alkyd flow is just purely and simply to make it dry more quickly. Got another little pot with terps in, purely for cleaning my brushes, and I've got a whole ruck of brushes which I'll describe as I go through. Right, here we go. And there we are, up to the whatever that's called. Now I'm going to start off with the sky. I've got a Rosemary & Co. Long Ivory flat, which is, like it says, it's a long brush, but it's a flat. Okay, dip some oil on the canvas, on the palette, just to mix some white, ultramarine, touch of the light red, and we've got a cloudy sort of colour which I'll dabble on. The board is a piece of 3mm MDF which I've primed with what you call the stuff, gesso, and then given a very rough coat of burnt sienna acrylic just to take the white off it. A little bit more blue, a little bit more white. This is what I love about oils. You can just play with them, blend them, and you can't do this with any other paint. Even using the flow medium, I still get overnight for it to dry. And I can blend into all these colours. And there I've got a bluey grey sky. As I come down to the horizon, I'm going to clean that brush. And just behind the horizon I'm going to put some Naples yellow and white to make a sort of creamy colour just at the horizon, and I'll blend that into the clouds. Just to make it fade out a bit towards the horizon. Some more clouds going in, touch of the burnt umber into the ultramarines, and then Now that is a funny colour to put in the sky, so I'll put some blue into it, which will grey it into heavy rainy sort of clouds, I hope. This hasn't gone exactly how I wanted it yet, so I'll put some more of that Naples yellow into there, because I want a fairly light cloudy bit. Going across the middle. I don't want it too light behind where the spray is going to be. And this bit up here is my own fault because I put too much light red in it. So what I'm going to do is actually mix ultramarine, and I'm going to add some alizarin crimson to the palette, because it's one of my favourite colours. I haven't got a true red in there, which is why I'm having difficulty with the greys. So there we go, we've got alizarin and ultramarine, and that gives us a nice dark cloudy colour. I'm trying to get it so that it looks as if there's a bit of a wind blowing. Because there's going to be a big splash there. Got a little Daylon fan blender, which is for blending. So there we go, blend all that. I'll come back and put some more detail into that later. But this is where I should have been about 10 minutes ago. So there, we've got a sort of sky thing there. Fan, go and sit in there. That brush, go and sit in there. Now, I'm going to use a smaller long flat, and I'm going to put in the headland across there. Now I do need the light red into it here, and touch of the umber, some ultramarine. This is a bluey grey because it's a long way away. There you go. A little poem, an aid memoir. Bluey grey is a long way away. Now this is a made up picture, but it's probably based on memories I have of the coast of the Flint Peninsula. Now, yellow ochre, white, and sap green, and add to that. It's cobalt blue, that's the problem I'm having with these greys. I'm used to using ultramarine, and my head was in the wrong place altogether. I was wondering why I was getting the wrong colours. Right, okay. Bit more white, and I'll put in the sea. If you want to draw a straight line with a paintbrush, don't paint like that. Hold it at the end and paint from your shoulder or even your hips. Much easier. As that comes forward, I'm going to add more blue to it. What I'm doing is adding small amounts of cobalt blue and white just to vary the tone in that flat sea. Clean the brush. Pale blue. It's not so flat here because this is where we're coming in to the shore and we're having turbulence. Right, okay, do some more blending with my fanny blender. So now we've got a blendy sky and a blendy sea, and cleaned that brush I'm going to use my burnt umber, some alizarin and some of my blue. I'm going to put in this cliffy bit. Now, because the cliff is made of stone, it's not smoothed. I'm making it much rougher in texture. And here I've got another cliffy bit, but this one is flat, so it's going to be lighter on the top. But it's only light on the top because that's where the light's coming down. I'll put some darks into the side and that wall. Another shelf. These will probably all change before I've finished. I want a sticky out rock there. Because that's what's being splashed upon. I want some smaller rocks along here. Which will have other splashy bits. Put some light bits on this big rock. There we've got the underpinning of the rocks anyway. Here I'm going to go smooth again and have a sort of sandy beach, which is so far pure yellow ochre with whatever paint I picked up underneath it. Some light red where it gets wet. I'll put some rocks and stuff in there. Now, put that brush to dry. Going to get still a Rosemary and Co brush, but it's quite an old one. It used to be a number 2 round. Well, it's still round, but it's not got a point anymore. It's years old, and this is my splodgy brush, for want of a better word. Okay, now I'm going to indicate where the big splashy bits go in. So there, that rock needs to be bigger to give the wave something to break on. Break, break, break on my cold grey stones, O sea. There. It's a big, 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 big rock. Now, there's light over there, so I'm going to use the Naples yellow to put some light coming through that wave. Blending it back into there. New bit of kitchen roll, if I can find the end. And make some movement in the sea behind it. And underneath there's going to be some shadow. So I've got my cobalt blue, touch of sap green, still using this bashed in brush. trying to get some energy into this wave, because waves are pure energy. Which is why you can use them to drive dynamos to make electricity. Just doubling where it's breaking up. Another earthquake. There is no other medium that you can do that with. This twiddly bits and leaving brush strokes behind. I just love working in oil. Okay, now we're going to have some water coming through here. Mainly blues and whites. Keeping these brush strokes flat, because water is flat unless it's doing that. There. Or beach. Stony rocky bits. Just putting in some of the Naples yellow. And we've got sort of wetty beach colour there. Some more dark into those side rocks. More darks into that. Right, now put you in there. I'm getting a little Scepter Gold nylon brush. All of this is just giving direction to the splash. There is where the water's thinnest. Now, somewhere I'll use a little brush. I was looking for a palette knife that I got out earlier on, a painting knife, but I buried it under detritus. So, right, this dark rock, I want cut out the dark bits against there. There's my little there. Some dark, just juxtaposing lights and darks. To give contrast. Need to get some dark underneath there. Some light bits on these rocks. shadow, darker greeny blue underneath that curl of that wave. Waves are three-dimensional, they're not flat, they have body. If ever you've been hit by a wave, it feels like a hammer. Some water coming in there. Oh, we're getting somewhere. Some wetness reflecting on this. Press too hard. Right, now we're getting somewhere. Just indicate some bits of beach. The Naples and the yellow ochre. Quite thick paint. trying to make sense of this area here. Or I'm trying to make this area here make sense. Jumbly rocks. Let's get some real dark bits in. And some fairly light bits on top of the rocks there. It's just a question of thinking which bits are pointing towards the sky, because they will be light. There's some dark bits. Clean the brush. Just put some highlights on these stones on the beach. Some more over there. While I'm at the foreground, I'm going to get a little brush one of my favourite brushes, again the Rosemary & Co, and their ivory, which is I think it's a mix of hog hair and nylon, but don't quote me on that. And what I'm going to do with this is mix up some seaweed. Just add bits of green into the foreground, put a few touches of light red. just to bring this forward. There's some white on that, and I'll just put some ripply bits. That was a mistake. But there, that could have been a deliberate mistake to show you how easy it is to sort things out with oils if you do make a mistake. What was I going to do? Put some shadowy bits in there. Right, I'm faffing. I'm going to put some light on that far headland. It's a very peely-wally green colour. And just put, while I've got this, very little bit of highlight out there, because there's sun over there somewhere, getting light coming through. Okay, I am definitely fiddling, so I'll stop. There we go. Seascape number 4753024 or something similar. Get rid of all my brushes. Be very careful with my painty hands. So there we go. Yet another seascape, which isn't too bad. Things that I've done in there are the blending of the sky up there. That is echoed in the wave as it hits there. Then from all this blendy stuff, you've got hard edges on the rock, so you've got soft, hard, some hard going across there, a little bit of soft in there, and then practically nothing in the foreground apart from blobs, so it doesn't detract from the stuff that's going on up there. So there we go. Just noticed when I was talking that was a bit of a hard edge. I'm going to, because there's so much blowiness going on out there, I'm going to put some blowiness on these white caps. So there we go. I'm going to spoil it. No, I'm not going to do any more to it at all. Let the viewer's brain do a bit of work. But there we go. Another Roxanne C. Yes, I will take the turn